Hi, I'm Shreya and this is Decoding Code. In this video, we will be doing a little bit of a review on for loops by going over 3 pattern printing exercises. These exercises will be ranging from kind of simple, not requiring that much thinking, just to get a little bit of a refresher on for loops, and then to a little bit more difficult, requiring more effort so that we can learn. So first I'll be showing you guys the output, so ignore the code and I will be running this program to show you guys what you're actually getting into. So I'm inputting a number first, so let's say 5. Then I'll be getting these 2 triangles. One is facing the right and it's 5 by 5, and then the same thing but facing the left. And then we have another pattern. Let's say I want 4. Then it's gonna give me this hourglass shape that is 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom, and then it goes down to 1 in the middle. So these are the 3 patterns that I'm gonna be creating in these exercises and in this video. And hopefully, if you guys want to, you can try this on your own before the video, so that if you're stuck, you can come back and watch and get my explanation for it. So let's start with the right triangle star pattern. So it's made out of stars. First off, I have an object of this integer util class just to get an integer from the user. And then this is where I'm actually creating that pattern. So first I'm creating this for loop and I have this integer a. We're first gonna set that to 0, and then a is going to be increasing and it's going to stay less than n, which is our number from the user. So it's going to be increasing until it reaches n, and we're going to print out a line every single time it goes through. Every line, because this is keeping track of the amount of lines. And then this is another for loop that's nested in the other one. We have another integer b that also starts at 0, and then we have that b is less than or equal to a. So here we have that b actually depends on a, because as you can see here, we have 1 star in the first row, and then 2 stars in the second row, and 3 stars in the third row, and things like that. It starts at 0 because it's gonna be 0 to 4, which is 5 rows. And then b is increasing. In between each line, I want the next line to start on a new line. So that's what that's here for. And at the end, I'm going to just print another line in between so that I can do my next pattern. Now this one is a little bit more complex since we have to account for these spaces before the star. Same thing as before, we have this integer, I named it c, and then it's going to be less than n. I am using the same integer that the user gave me for both triangles, so that's going to account for the number of rows. This is going to actually account for the spaces. So this for loop has an integer d, and then that's going to equal, and then we have this like little math thingy over here that I'm going to explain. So we have n minus c. So n is the number that the user gave me, and then c is the row that we are currently on. So if we are on the 0th row, and then the user gave me, let's say 3, then we're going to have 3 spaces, right? But why am I multiplying it by 2? Well, what I'm doing here is I'm actually putting an asterisk and then a space. So for every asterisk, I'm going to actually have to account for 2 spaces. So instead of 3 spaces in this hypothetical triangle, we're actually going to need 6 spaces. And then I'm minusing 2 because I don't want 2 spaces in the front. D is going to be greater than 0, and then D is decreasing. And then we are just printing our space. Now this for loop is actually for the actual stars. So we just have this integer e equals 0. E is going to be less than or equal to c. So it depends on c this time. We want it to be less than or equal to because again, we have that it's from 0 to 2. So, and this starts at 0 as well. And then e is going to be increasing. And then we're printing out that asterisk and a space. So that's what we're printing out. We're going to print out at the end of all of this a new line, because this whole thing is just for one line. So then we're printing out a new line to start at the next line, go through it all over again. Now comes the hourglass pattern. I'm going to actually split this into two triangles, the upper triangle and the lower triangle. So we have the upper triangle first. So I have another integer. I'm asking the user for another one, and I'm calling this one number. So we have this for loop. I'm going to start with an integer f. So f is going to start at 0. F is going to be less than the number. Again, this is just accounting for the number of rows. And then f is going to be increasing. So now we're going to account for the spaces first. Just like the left triangle, I'm going to account for the spaces first. We're going to start at the spaces 0, since it's less at the top and more at the bottom. We're going to start at 0. Spaces is going to be less than or equal to f. So since f is starting at less and then going to be increasing, we also want the spaces to start at 0 and then be increasing. So that depends on the f, and then the spaces is going to be increasing, like I just said. And then we're just going to print a space. In another for loop, now we're going to account for the stars. Now the stars are going from more to less. So it's actually going to start at the number minus f. Now, whatever number it is, we need to minus f, because to account for the spaces that are already there. Star has to be greater than 0, and stars are decreasing. And then we're just going to print an asterisk and a space. Printing a new line for the next triangle. So we have this lower triangle. First, we're starting with an integer g. We're going to make this 0. Now we don't have to make it decreasing, because this is just accounting for how many rows there are. So we have g is 0, g is going to be less than the number, and then g is being added. Now we have a for loop accounting for the spaces. The spaces is actually going to equal number. So because the spaces this time is going to be from more to less, and then spaces is actually greater than g. Now I'm not saying that spaces is greater than maybe number, because each time number never changes. So we want spaces to be greater than g. In the second row, g is actually going to be 1. So we want spaces to be greater than g, so it's going to give me 3 spaces. 4 to 1, that's 3 spaces. And then space is going to be decreasing. We print out a space. The next for loop accounts for the stars. Now in this case, the stars start from less to more. So we're going to start from 0, and then stars is going to be less than or equal to g. If it's the first row, then the stars is going to equal 0, g is going to equal 0, so there's only 1 star. And then 2 stars, 3 stars, it goes on like that. So the stars depends on g. Very simple. And then stars is increasing. So we print out the star, and then we print out a line, and that's it for the pattern. So hopefully this has helped you, and hopefully you've gotten some experience from this, learned something new. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below. That really helps me grow my channel, and I upload every single week on Mondays. Bye!